Good evening, and thank you for joining us for KET's coverage of the Governor's State of the Commonwealth and Budget Address, which will be coming to you in an unusual fashion because of COVID. Good evening, everyone. I'm Renee Shaw, and we're glad you're with us. After the speech tonight, we'll have reaction from legislative leaders. But right now, to set the stage for what's to unfold, we have with us in the Lexington studio Amy Wycliffe, a Republican strategist and legislative agent, and Sherman Brown, a Democratic strategist and legislative agent. Thank you all for being here with us. It is unusual this time around, Amy. With COVID, things are going to be done differently. The speech has already been recorded, and we will be playing that back here in a little bit. And also the events of yesterday delayed the speech that was supposed to have taken place this same time last night.
That's right. Well, I think, nothing is normal. We've entered 2021 and we're still seeing remnants of 2020 play out before us. I think first and foremost, the tragic events that unfolded yesterday, it was a total disgrace of what we saw in D.C. I truly hope that is our country's kind of rock bottom and we can start to rebuild from here. So I'm glad, though, that we're here tonight. We've seen a lot of work go on in Frankfort. But yes, nothing is normal, and the State of the Commonwealth and Budget Address is no exception this evening. That's right.
They are in joint session, and you will see some activity from the House floor in a little bit. Sherman, they have been very busy. The Senate just really wrapped up about a half an hour ago. So they're making their way in. It's been a busy start of the session. And what do you know about what the governor may say tonight?
Yeah, and like Amy was saying, it is just interesting. And right now, even as they're walking in, usually we would watch the constitutional officers walk in. We would kind of be talking about what to see there. You can tell the way people interact. That's all different. So it's a completely different scenario here. I think what I'm expecting to see in the governor's budget is a lot of what was in his previous budget, and the same priorities. I think you're going to see a lot of that brought forward. We're in a different spot with COVID, so I think he's going to be looking at relief for individuals and businesses. I anticipate that. Education, I think that has been a priority with teachers specifically, taking care of them. Healthcare and jobs, and that goes back to even what we're going through now. You're seeing, with the pandemic, it's worldwide. Unemployment is nationwide. I mean, those numbers are up. So I think they're, he's going to be trying to grasp all that. And in addition to that, I think you're also going to see an infrastructure looking forward, an investment, in infrastructure and an investment in broadband.
And it is unusual that we are talking about a budget in an odd-numbered year, Amy, because last year, to Sherman's point, they passed just a one-year budget because of the circumstances surrounding COVID, that we're going to come in and see how the revenue forecasts look and then do another one-year budget. So it is different in lots of ways.
It is, and I think we still find ourselves in those uncertain times, and that's why I think you will find the supermajorities probably be very conservative in their budgeting, and even in this second year of this biennial budget, because we still don't know really what the true economy looks like. It's been inflated with federal stimulus dollars. Unemployment is still out there. So we've got a lot of things to we haven't bounced back. We have not emerged. And so I think you'll see some very conservative principles maintained in the supermajority's budgets as that works its way through the process.
And we should say that this is budget recommendations, right? And he has filed a bill, and perhaps another bill will be filed along with it. We know that the Joint Committee of the Senate and House A&R will happen tomorrow morning, and they will have the state budget director in, most likely, to kind of go through and give highlights of the budget recommendation and pick it apart from there, and then move pretty fastly. And we heard earlier this week on this very set, actually, for Kentucky Night Monday night, that they really want to move this out by mid-February. We know that might be an optimistic picture, but could happen.
It would certainly be the fastest that I think any of us have seen the budget move. But I do think that this legislature, like past ones, but I think this one in particular, they came to town to get to work. And we've seen that over the last couple days. I think the budget is no exception. I think we could see action on the budget very quickly so they can get to conference committee and use that January interim break to be able to really get down to the nuts and bolts, to be able to get something to the governor early February.
And to that point, Sherman, what we see tonight won't be what will be the final budget that is signed into law. So has a lot to go through from this point on.
I mean, I think that's when you have, the legislature obviously has its role. So the governor, presents his budget, the House will file their budget, and it takes off from there and goes through the process.
So I think now we might be ready to head down to the House floor in Frankfort, where they will start to gavel in those members and then segue to the speech of Governor Andy Beshear.
House come to order. Clerk, please sound the chimes. Gentleman from McCracken.
Mr. Speaker, the Clerk of the Senate.
Chair recognizes the Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. Speaker, the Senate has passed Senate Bills 1, 2, 3, and 9, and respectfully requests concurrence of this honorable body.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Gentleman from McCracken.
Mr. Speaker, I ask that we return to the order of business of introduction of new bills and resolutions.
Without objection, so ordered. Madam Clerk, please report.
House Bill 191, Representative Petrie, an act relating to appropriations measures providing funding and establishing conditions for support due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, making an appropriation therefore, and declaring an emergency. House Bill 192, Representative Petrie, an act relating to appropriations measures providing funding and establishing conditions for the operations, maintenance, support, and functioning of the government of the Commonwealth of Kentucky and its various officers, cabinets, departments, boards, commissions, institutions, subdivisions, agencies, and other state-supported activities. Representative 193, Representative Petrie, an act relating to appropriations providing financing and conditions for the operations, maintenance, support, and functioning of the Transportation Cabinet of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. House Bill 194, Representative Petrie, an act making appropriations for the operations, maintenance, and support of the legislative branch of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. House Bill 195, Representative Petrie, an act making appropriations for the operations, maintenance, support, and functioning of the judicial branch of government of the Commonwealth of Kentucky and its various officers, boards, commissions, subdivisions, and other state-supported activities. House Bill 196, Representative Wesley, an act relating to the prohibition of patriot penalties in insurance. House Bill 223, an act relating to peace officer hours of work. Representative Kulkarni.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Gentleman from McCracken.
Mr. Speaker, I move you, sir, that the House resolve into joint session.
Without objection, so ordered. Chair recognizes the Chief Doorkeeper.
The President of the Senate of the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
Chair calls to order this joint session of the 2021 Commonwealth of Kentucky General Assembly. Will members please rise for the invocation to be delivered by the gentleman from Perry and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by the Speaker of the House.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day and thank you for the opportunity, Lord, to represent you. I remember the first time I came in this chambers, Lord, in 2017, and above this stand here where our speaker stands, Lord, is the words, "In God we trust." And I remember thinking, Lord, as I walked in here, I prayed that day and I pray tonight that we would absolutely be a people that would put our trust in you. I pray that would not just be a saying, but I pray, Lord, that our nation, our state, us as leaders, that you'd help us and our people, Lord, to trust in you as the Bible tells us to. Lord, I pray for our nation tonight. Lord, we're a hurting nation. And Lord, I pray that you'd help us to turn our hearts back to you. Lord, I pray that you forgive us where we failed you. I pray that you forgive us where we've took for granted the blessings of the past. Lord, I pray that you would help us to again turn our eyes toward you and our hearts toward you. I pray, God, that we would see that you are the answer to all of life's problems. I thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to serve here in this House of Representatives, in this General Assembly. I pray for our Speaker. I pray for our President Stivers, Lord, that you'd bless them as they lead us. I pray, God, you'd give them your wisdom. Give us your wisdom. Lord, I pray that you'd help us to be examples to our people all across the state of doing the things right, the way they should be done. I pray for our governor that you'd help him, bless him, and Lord, help him to have wisdom to make the right decisions. I pray, Lord, that you'd help us as a state, that we would stop killing babies. I pray, God, that we would stop doing things that are not pleasing to you. I pray, Lord, that if we're going to have the hand of blessing on our lives and on our state, Lord, we have to turn back to you. We love you. We thank you, Lord, for the greatest gift of all, that gift of salvation through the blood of Christ on the cross of Calvary. I pray that you'd bless this evening. I pray that you'd receive glory. And we'll thank you for it, Lord. We ask that you'd bless our military. I pray that you'd bless our police officers, first responders, doctors, nurses. Bless all those that are sick right now with this virus and other sicknesses, that you'd heal them, heal our land. And Lord, I promise you that we'll thank you for it. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gentleman from McCracken.
Mr. President, I move you, sir, that the roll call be dispensed with.
Is there a second? Second. Multiple seconds. Motion made and seconded that the roll call be dispensed with without objection. So ordered. I would now like to yield the floor to the Governor of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, Andy Beshear, who will be joining us virtually from the Governor's Mansion to deliver the State of the Commonwealth address and his budget address. Governor.
Good evening, President Stivers, Speaker Osborne, members of the General Assembly, and to everyone watching from home, including Justice Minton and the Kentucky Supreme Court, our constitutional officers, our Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman, the First Lady, and my kids, Will and Lila. Tonight, I address both a state and a country that are hurting. Hurting from a pandemic that has swept across the world, upended our economy, and taken the lives of our loved ones. Hurting from attacks on our democracy that yesterday rose to the level of an attack on the United States Capitol. It is hard to believe just how much can change in a single year. A year ago, I delivered my first State of the Commonwealth address, laying out the vision and the values that would guide my administration as we work to build a better Kentucky. A Kentucky where we work together on one team, Team Kentucky, to achieve our goals of better paying jobs, putting education first, ensuring access to affordable health care, supporting healthy retirements, and treating each other with dignity and respect. That night, I spoke before a House chamber filled with lawmakers, and later, the First Lady and I hosted a reception where Democrats and Republicans alike had a few moments of fellowship. But tonight, I speak to you remotely, virtually, a first for the State of the Commonwealth. I do so to set an example for how we fight the COVID-19 pandemic, which is spreading rapidly throughout this Commonwealth. And I speak to you after a one-day delay of this speech because domestic terrorists who have the gall to call themselves patriots are using intimidation and violence to try to tear apart our great country. But in difficult times, in troubling times, I turn to my faith, where the season of Epiphany reminds us that there is light in the darkness. So in 2021, we will defeat the coronavirus, and we should be intentional about restoring our democracy. If we can accomplish both, 2021 will be a great year. But 2021 has the chance to be so much more. Tonight, with my Better Kentucky budget, I'm offering my administration's blueprint for prioritizing our people and moving this Commonwealth into the forefront of the emerging post-COVID economy. For tonight's address, I walked past the statue of President Abraham Lincoln, the epitome of leadership in times of turmoil and division. His statue holds pride of place in our Capitol Rotunda. I was reminded of his message to the federal legislature in 1862. He said, "The dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate to the stormy present. The occasion is piled high with difficulty, and we must rise with the occasion. As our case is new, so we must think anew and act anew. We must disenthrall ourselves, and then we shall save our country." As Kentuckians, we are now called to rise to our occasion. Now is our time. We can't play politics while our people and our country struggle. We must move this Commonwealth forward. But before we have that discussion, the depths of our sacrifices and the magnitude of our losses during this past year demands our attention. Over the past 10 months, we have been at war. This evil virus has taken more than 2,700 of our fellow Kentuckians. That toll is heartbreaking. It's greater than the number of Kentuckians lost in Vietnam, Korea, even World War I. And these aren't numbers. These are our grandparents and parents, our brothers and sisters, our friends, our co-workers, and in some case, even our children. We've lost doctors, teachers, bus drivers, a police chief, pastors, and a 15-year-old student. One Kentucky family in Hopkins County suffered an unbearable loss in April when a wife and a husband, Frida and Doug Woods, died of COVID-19 in the space of just 2 days. And in Campbellsville, I think about the Cheatham family who lost both parents and their grandfather in less than a month. So I'm asking everybody listening in the chamber and at home to observe a moment of silence, and if you're willing, say a prayer as we remember the Kentuckians we've lost to this pandemic. Thank you. March 6th of last year is a day I will never forget. It was the day we recorded our first case of COVID-19. From that moment, I committed to treating this as the once-in-a-century life and death threat that it remains today. In fact, just yesterday, we had over 5,000 new cases. We started this battle in March with limited tests in a single state lab to process them. So we went to work, building a robust coronavirus testing program across this state. Today, we have more than 350 testing locations all across Kentucky, and we've conducted more than 3.4 million tests. Anybody who wants a test can get one, and most of the time, immediately. We started this battle in March and in April with insufficient personal protective equipment to protect our people. Since then, we've created and maintained a strong 120-day stockpile, and along the way, we delivered more than 18 million pieces of PPE to government, medical, and private sector entities. More than 100 companies jumped in to help, either by donating PPE or producing it, which helped ensure our healthcare workers and our other frontline heroes were protected. In March, there was so much we didn't know. But today, we provide the public with more information, more data than has ever been available in any outbreak or in any pandemic. It includes cases by county, positivity rates, hospitalizations, positives and quarantines in schools, daycares, and long-term care facilities, and now even updates on vaccinations. Throughout this pandemic, my administration has worked in a bipartisan fashion with the federal administration and with my fellow governors. We've taken our advice from experts, including White House experts like Dr. Anthony Fauci and Dr. Deborah Birx, and our own expert, Dr. Stephen Stack. My actions have been targeted to have the greatest impact, and they've been limited in both time and scope to avoid undue and unnecessary damage. I've reported on these actions and their basis in almost daily briefings, and my administration has testified on them over 40 times before the General Assembly in the last 10 months. The courts have backed our moves, with the Kentucky Supreme Court noting in a unanimous decision that our actions weren't just legal but necessary to fight this deadly virus. I have no doubt we did the best we could, and I'm proud of the actions my administration has taken, along with the personal actions and sacrifices of Kentuckians everywhere. Together, we have suppressed each of the 3 major waves of infections that have threatened us. When the full story of this pandemic is told, Team Kentucky will stand tall on how we took care of one another. I was inspired knowing how our people have responded with compassion, hard work, and perseverance throughout this crisis. I think of the child who mailed me her allowance to donate to the Team Kentucky Fund. I think of the dozens of quilters who came together across Kentucky to sew thousands of masks. And I think about you. You followed the guidance. You made the hard decisions to forego holiday get-togethers. You postponed weddings and vacations. You missed funerals. You supported hard-hit local restaurants by ordering carryout and curbside. And you lit your home up green every night to show compassion. While this has been one of the hardest battles of our lifetimes, because of our collective actions, we have saved lives, and the state of this Commonwealth is stronger and better prepared than most to finally defeat this virus. But you don't have to take my word for it. You can look at the devastating experiences in states that failed to take the same aggressive actions we did to stop the coronavirus. Adjusted for population, we have suffered less than half the number of deaths as the people of Tennessee, and less than 1/4 the number of deaths as the citizens of North and South Dakota. And through these trials, we have learned that an effective virus response is necessary to sustain and rebuild our economy. Even in the grip of this pandemic, we've announced $2.4 billion invested in new and expanding projects that are going to create more than 8,000 new jobs. The average pay for these jobs is one of the highest in years. We supported our rural communities with more than $124 million invested for 160 projects that are going to diversify regional economies, and they're going to provide clean drinking water. And we provided millions to support our agricultural economy to spawn the innovation that will feed future generations. Now, we are called to look ahead, not with fear, but with courage. To do so, we must move past any remaining denial or rationalization. That a public health crisis has been politicized, even as thousands have died, is troubling for both our state and our nation. Failure to take this virus seriously at this late date disrespects the memory of those we've lost, disrespects the pain of those who are grieving, and disrespects the deep sacrifices so many have made in this war. It also threatens to create much more pain, more death, and more disruption, all of which can be avoided. With the election season finally over, it's time to put aside squabbling and petty partisanship. So let me be clear. Every moment in this short session we spend fighting is a loss for our Kentucky families. Such fighting will leave us empty-handed and further behind those states that recognize this moment and this opportunity. Our goal should be to act swiftly and with wisdom on behalf of the people of the Commonwealth. Because after a dark and difficult year, we have some very encouraging news. Thanks to the hard work of my administration, especially my state budget director, we have the opportunity to move forward from a position of strength. We produced 2 balanced budgets during this pandemic. Kentucky's Rainy Day Fund is at its highest level ever. And with this budget, we're going to provide an extra $100 million to further solidify and protect it. And I'm pleased to report that with a better budget forecast than was initially anticipated, we have over $600 million in one-time money available to invest in our future. And this is important. This budget, my Better Kentucky budget, doesn't rely on any increase in taxes. There are no spending cuts, and it doesn't rely on the passage of any new revenue measures. So with this budget, we have an unprecedented opportunity, an opportunity to provide real relief and to jump ahead of other states. My Better Kentucky budget is built on 3 pillars: relief for small businesses and Kentucky families, prioritizing our people, and bold investment in our future. The first pillar provides relief to our families and businesses still hurting and addressing the damage caused by COVID-19. For a small business relief, I'm proposing $220 million be directed to the Better Kentucky Small Business Relief Fund to help small businesses that have experienced losses as a result of this pandemic. This represents the single largest relief fund of its kind in generations, and it cannot wait. So I'm asking the General Assembly to pass this funding in a separate bill to make it available immediately. For individual relief, today I'm authorizing $48 million in CARES Act funding to go to those who have waited too long to receive unemployment benefits, and also to help out those who have missed out on the federal government's Lost Wages Assistance Program because they made too little. It is the right thing to do. Further, this budget corrects a legacy of underfunding our unemployment insurance system. As you know, my administration inherited a UI operation that runs on an IT system that's functionally obsolete. In the years leading up to the pandemic, previous administration and in previous sessions, they closed in-person services and cut 95 skilled employees from UI. The UI budget was further slashed by $16 million. This, coupled with a once-in-a-lifetime 1,300% year-over-year increase in claims, meant many Kentuckians have had to wait far too long during a difficult time for their payments. This is the help they're owed, and it's what they deserve. And far too many have waited far too long. Finally, we're using CARES Act funding to repay $152 million in UI loans. And on top of that, today I'm calling for the General Assembly to provide $100 million more in this budget to go to those loans. The second pillar of the Building a Better Kentucky budget is all about putting our people first, prioritizing our children and our families' education, health care, and retirements. Kentucky's great educators and school staff have had to overcome incredible challenges this year, quickly adjusting to online instruction when needed and making sure our children were fed even when they weren't in the classroom. One teacher, Sarah Blades of Lexington, showed true Team Kentucky spirit. She not only helped her students, but went above and beyond to help one of their parents get a GED. Thank you, Sarah, and every educator for all that you do. That's why my budget calls for a $1,000 salary increase for every teacher, bus driver, cafeteria worker, and other hardworking school employee in Kentucky. And let's continue to build and invest in our children by increasing the SEEK formula and funding textbooks and electronic instruction resources. I'm also providing support for preschool programs to help children most in need get started early on a path to success and opportunity. We're restoring a teacher loan forgiveness program and continuing to fund additional full-time school-based mental health services. We need to invest in our workforce and the jobs of the future, so we provide more dollars to higher education, providing an additional $17 million for post-secondary institutions. This represents a 2% increase in general fund investment. I'm also creating the Better Kentucky Promise, a program that broadens the Work Ready Scholarship, creates new opportunities, and provides the last dollar necessary for more than 6,300 Kentuckians to complete associate's degrees or secure certificates. Imagine that. 6,300 Kentuckians gaining that educational opportunity that's going to move all of us forward. I'm also proposing a 1% raise for our hardworking state employees. They keep our communities running, and they have more than earned it. We're improving compensation for local and state law enforcement and firefighters who are always on the front lines with a $600 stipend increase from the Law Enforcement and Firefighters Foundation program funds. And I've included the full exclusion of military pensions from the Kentucky income tax, recognizing the service of our men and women in uniform and what it means to our country. My Better Kentucky budget further prioritizes the health of our people. We're investing in our families by increasing the number of slots available in the Michelle P. Medicaid waivers. We're fully funding Medicaid, and we're adding 76 new social workers for Child Protective Services. And in this administration, we will continue to address inequities in access to health care. It shouldn't take a pandemic to show us such access is a difference between life and death. We're also supporting our selfless local health departments by doubling their general fund support to improve their epidemiology and their clinical capacity. This year has shown us how important they are. These local heroes, like Michelle here in Frankfort, have been a lifeline to families. They stood in the heat of the summer and the cold of the winter to provide testing. And to support healthy retirements, we are providing pension relief to our critical quasi-governmental agencies like child advocacy centers and domestic violence shelters, as well as local health departments and community mental health centers. Our Better Kentucky budget also includes full pension funding for the teachers' retirement system for just the second time. And we are investing in our retirement systems, fully funding the state's retirement plan. The third pillar of building a better Kentucky is about making bold investments that allow us to sprint out of this pandemic and into our future, about how together we can not only survive but thrive in 2021 and beyond. See, periods of difficulty can lead to incredible changes and opportunities that seemed all but impossible only years ago. The Civil War was perhaps the lowest point for this country, but it led to an end of slavery and the guarantee of equal rights under law in the 14th Amendment. The Great Depression found Kentucky in dire economic straits, but out of it came the New Deal and a reimagining of how government could help its citizens. World War II tested our resolve, dramatically changed our economy. But out of that conflict, we built the world's strongest economy, a healthy middle class, and we stepped into our role as leader of the free world. The shock of COVID-19 has brought on our current transformational period. And how we lead in the next year will dictate whether Kentucky simply recovers back to the old normal or instead takes its place among the most productive and innovative states in the Union. For this, we need the courage to make bold investments in our people and in our future. It cannot wait. The first key to revitalization in Kentucky must begin with education. Mine is and always will be an education-first administration. This begins with the literal building blocks of our schools. Too many of Kentucky's schools are crumbling and in dire need of repair. Some date as far back as the 1930s. So my budget calls for $100 million in additional one-time money to help rebuild and repair Kentucky schools. This will improve the experience of students, educators, and staff. It'll enhance the surrounding communities. It'll also create thousands of new construction jobs and unleash a wave of positive economic activity across Kentucky. The experience of our educators and our students during COVID-19 further points to a larger shift that Kentucky must be prepared for and invest in now. The move to virtual classrooms was mirrored in many occupations, especially the use of telehealth, pointing to the growing importance of broadband. We used to think of broadband in terms of just business, but now we know it touches every part of our lives, the education of our kids, how we receive health care. This is the most important infrastructure of the future. Even when COVID-19 is behind us, it's clear that many companies are moving towards policies that will continue to encourage telework. And medical providers have expanded telehealth, making in-person visits and needing to commute to your doctor's office a thing of the past. This is particularly important in our rural communities in eastern and western Kentucky. Telehealth will boost the well-being of our people, and its technological expansion will further strengthen our healthcare sector, which provides thousands of jobs across the Commonwealth. That's why my budget provides $50 million to fund the last mile of broadband. This is the first time that state dollars have been used to invest in expanding broadband. This historic investment will help make sure every family that needs it has it. It is also time we addressed our transportation budget. Doing so will require both short-term and long-term solutions, but we need to invest in our transportation infrastructure now. This will create jobs and stimulate the economy immediately, even as it encourages future growth. I'm ready to step up to the plate. I hope others are too. Finally, we must continue to nurture innovation and entrepreneurship. Last year in this speech, I highlighted the work at Jonathan Webb with App Harvest. Since then, I'm pleased to announce that AppHarvest has opened one of the world's largest agri-tech greenhouses in Morehead, Kentucky. Just that one facility will provide more than 300 jobs in eastern Kentucky and result in millions of pounds of healthy produce being shipped all over the eastern United States. The company has since broken ground on 2 more sites in Madison County. AppHarvest is the example of what Kentucky innovators can do, and I was proud to support it. In 2021, I'm committed to finding the next AppHarvest, creating the jobs of the future and not simply chasing the jobs of the past. To do this, my budget includes a fund for emerging industries such as agri-tech to ensure Kentucky stays on the cutting edge of new opportunities and new businesses. Building a better Kentucky also means that our laws do not unduly restrict us from innovation. That's why I'm asking all of my cabinet secretaries to identify ways to modernize with an eye towards determining what services can remain remote. A resident of Paducah or Ashland who wants a license or certificate shouldn't have to spend more time in their car just coming to Frankfort than he or she does actually taking the test to get the certificate. And speaking of laws that unduly restrict us from growth and innovation, it is time to legalize medical marijuana, pass sports betting, and save historic horse racing. And it is time to acknowledge and address the racism that continues to exist in this country and in this Commonwealth. And we must clearly denounce, in one voice, the domestic terrorists that threatened our country and stormed our U.S. Capitol. You cannot fan the flames and condemn the fire. To live the motto, United We Stand, we have to be better. This is the bold agenda we need now. To achieve our goal of a better Kentucky, all branches of government need to be prepared to take bold action. So I'm looking forward to working with President Stivers and Speaker Osborne and every member of the General Assembly to make that happen. We should commit to working together and setting a positive example and tone in Frankfort. So many Kentuckians are depending on us. We have not had this much opportunity for new investment in our people and in our future in a generation. Let's make it count. Let's have the courage. Let's be bold. Let's not fumble this opportunity. We get to decide how history looks back on us in 10, 20, or even 50 years. This is our chance. So let's think and act differently so we can get different and better results. We should all support relief for our small businesses. We should all support building better schools. We should all support affordable college, raises for our educators, and creating more good-paying jobs. We should all support broadband to move us forward. And we all know the unemployment system has been cut to the bone and must improve to help our workers when they need it the most. Folks, we can be fiscally responsible, help our people, and invest in our future all at the same time. I began tonight's speech talking about the different world in which I delivered my first State of the Commonwealth address, a world of in-person social engagement and fellowship. But I spent most days in 2020 walking through a largely empty Capitol. On the tough days, I would stand in the shadow of President Lincoln's statue. I reminded myself half the country disagreed with almost every decision he made, but history has judged him amongst our greatest leaders. President Lincoln reminds us of the importance of this moment. He said, "Leave nothing for tomorrow which can be done today." There is so much we can, so much we must do right now. Let's rise to the occasion. 2021 began on a high note with safe and effective vaccines being distributed to our healthcare workers and our long-term care residents. As these vaccines are distributed, Kentucky will have the confidence to sprint, not stumble, out of this pandemic and into our future. And now, in the face of so much hate and even insurrection, we must be Kentuckians and Americans before we're anything else. It's time to come together on Team Kentucky, both for our state and for our nation. Yesterday was an emotional day for all of us. I hurt for our country, but I also hurt for my 2 kids. They deserve better. They deserve better than a world filled with hate and anger, a world with selfishness and sometimes even reckless disregard for other people's lives. My kids deserve better, and so do yours. This generation's been asked to do a lot. We've been asked to beat a once-in-a-century pandemic. But we're also called. called to build a better world, a just world, a world where everyone matters. We raise our kids to know better and to behave better than what we saw yesterday in Washington. We're taught in our houses of worship to be better than this. Proverbs chapter 10, verse 12 tells us, hatred stirs up conflict, but love covers over all wrongs. I pledge I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure Kentucky leads in the post-COVID economy, but I also pledge to lead in ways that show love, compassion, and understanding. This is likely one of the most important and formative years for Kentucky in a generation, both for our economy and for the soul of our country. Let's get to work on building a better Kentucky. Thank you. God bless, and God bless the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Everybody out there, stay safe.
That was Governor Andy Beshear delivering his joint Commonwealth and budget address. I'm Renee Shaw. Thank you for joining us this evening as we present you live coverage of this activity tonight. The governor's speech was pre-recorded earlier today and submitted virtually to the House chamber, where there is a joint session of the members of the House and Senate there. So we have with us in our studio Amy Wycliffe and Sherman Brown, who are strategists, one Republican, one Democrat. You'll figure that out in a minute, and legislative agents as well. So we want to talk about the speech real quick before we go to the legislative leaders. And I'll go to you first, Amy. He ended the speech talking about the insurrection that happened in the nation's capital yesterday. That was kind of a theme we heard from top to bottom. But before that, 5 minutes toward the end of it, he mentioned legalizing sports betting, medical marijuana, and historical horse racing. And that came near the end. He didn't really embellish on that much. Were you surprised to hear that tonight?
I was a little surprised to hear from that. But, you know, I think the governor, this is his one chance to really set out his agenda and make it known to the Commonwealth and to the General Assembly what he hopes that they would consider during this legislative session. So interesting that those three priorities were tossed in there with the state of the Commonwealth and the budget. They are initiatives that we know very well. You know, they've been discussed in the General Assembly for a while. So, but interesting to see those make his list.
And we should say that Republicans have been pushing, or a Republican, Adam Koenig from Northern Kentucky, Earl Langer, who is chair of the House Licensing and Occupations Committee, has been behind sports wagering for a while, and we'll see that again.
Absolutely. And Jason Nemes has been pushing medical marijuana.
That's right. So from the Republican side, so maybe those things, Sherman, might get a little bit more traction than maybe some of the other things he mentioned. This $613 million one-time money that would be used, and I think this is a separate bill from the budget bill that's being submitted to help Kentuckians relieve small businesses, the unemployment insurance, and help for nonprofits. So those things, and the raises for teachers, $1,000 for teachers and the classified staff, so bus drivers, chefs, all those raises or funds for textbooks, electronic instruction services, higher education get some. Of course, there was a lot of pension talk, 1% raise for state employees for fiscal year 2022. So talk about what you thought of this speech and the chances that he might actually get some of these things across the finish line. Sure.
So the first part is the $613 million, excuse me, very big difference, is the surplus. That's what they were talking about, of having that money. What I was watching for and coming in was that Kentucky does have a surplus. I knew that coming in. How was he going to spend the CARES Act funding? What was he going to use that money for? That's one-time money. Can't really rely on that. That's that federal money that came in because of the pandemic. How would he address the unemployment insurance loan? And then the one that we really didn't talk about is protecting the vulnerable and his Medicaid and fully funding that, right, which he acknowledged that he was going to do. As I'm kind of looking through, this budget definitely provides relief for Kentuckians. He talked about a Kentucky Small Business Relief Fund that he wanted, and he wanted that as a separate bill and standalone bill that he wanted, passed. Thought I heard with an emergency clause on there, and he would support that. He talked about, and as far as looking forward, it addresses the pandemic, but it also looks forward. And I try to take notes and look back at everything here.
Sure.
But there's no budget cuts. There's no tax increases. Adds money to the rainy day fund. Payment to the unemployment insurance loan, fully funds Medicaid, broadband, $50 million for the last mile. These are things that we've been talking about for a while. $100 million for schools, for schools as far as rebuilding, reaching out, and that's across the state.
And the Emerging Industries Fund, which he's talked a lot about, agri-tech and those types of businesses. So that's part of Pillar 3. That's the big, bold investments, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And he's talking. I mean, he was talking about that before, an investment in the future. And I said that I thought that he would be looking toward the future, using the same priorities. I haven't seen, and I said that earlier. I don't think that's changed. I think that we saw that. I think he's still looking at the exact same things, and I'll go through the $1,000 raises for teachers. I mean, that was something he was talking about. He made that pledge during his campaign in 2019.
It was $2,000 though the last
That's
session.
correct. That's right. That's right. 1% raise to state employees. And then looking at transportation infrastructure, he said he's ready to take that on. I think Secretary Gray's been, having conversations as far as a bill there. So there's a lot here, and we don't have the details yet.
Sure.
It'd be interesting to see that.
And we'll get that soon, right?
To that point, I heard a lot of spending tonight. I think we all did. I think the devil's in the details. You know, it's once you get that budget document and actually see how those numbers are moved around. I think a lot of this sounds good, but I think especially when it comes to raises, I think everyone wants to give raises to state employees and teachers. I think it's going to be very hard to give those raises when so many businesses have been shut down for the last several months, had to lay off employees. Some of those businesses didn't open back up to no fault of their own. I think that's going to be a steep hill to climb. I was listening for issues, though, that they could find some common ground on. I think some broadband investment is something. I think Senator Steve Meredith spoke about broadband a little bit on the floor today in the Senate. Obviously, more money in the rainy day fund. That's going to be helpful, as well as some improvements and investment in our UI fund to pay off
unemployment
that
insurance.
loan.
Yeah, just make sure people know.
Sorry. Yes.
And of course, and Sherman did say this, that the budget proposal doesn't rely on tax increases or new revenue resources, and no spending cuts, which would be the first time since the Great Recession, so 2008, 2009. And we'll see if all of that holds. And it does adhere to the estimates by the Consensus Forecasting Group that kind of makes sure that where the money is coming from and how it's getting into our coffers and what we can play with. So I think we might be ready to now talk with the House and Senate minority leaders. Yes, there they are. We have with us Representative Joni Jenkins and Senator Morgan McGarvey. Thank you all for being with us. I know it's been an extremely long day. Senator McGarvey just got off the floor probably an hour and 15 minutes ago. So we appreciate you all rushing to be with us. Representative Jenkins, I'll begin with you. Get your reaction about what was proposed tonight and how you think it will be received in the House, as there will be a committee tomorrow morning, a committee meeting tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock that will already kind of break down what the governor has proposed tonight.
I found this to be a very, very hopeful budget, that it gives us hope for the future. It builds toward the future. I think at this time, or 10 months ago, when we went into this pandemic, we had no idea what our economy would look like. And thanks to the federal infusion of money, we have weathered this as a state pretty well. And I think the outline that the governor has given us in terms of funding education and funding for the future, I think it's very helpful, very, very, very hopeful. And I believe that it's going to be one that's going to gather bipartisan support. We're saving money. We're putting money in the rainy day fund. We're fully funding pensions. We're not making cuts to education. I think it's going to be hard for the majority to say no to a lot of these things.
Senator McGarvey, what say you? Because today there was a lot of rigorous debate on the Senate floor about the governor's executive powers. And I'm just wondering how that conversation may translate into the budget negotiations and how much the governor can advance these ideas that he presented tonight.
Yeah, I mean, look, the first thing is the budget is good news. And that's something I think when we all left here last April, we probably didn't think the budget would have this much good news in it. The fact that our revenues went up, that December receipts were really good, the roads fund looked good, the general fund is looking okay, and we have this increase in federal money, that one-time money that we're going to be able to use is really good news. You talked about the Senate floor today. Sure, there was some disagreement, and I won't sugarcoat that at all. We knew those were coming. This is kind of week one stuff. But what I'm optimistic about is that you will see kind of a bipartisan spirit. The governor and his team met with legislative leaders this morning. We're having the budget brief tomorrow. There was already an agreement moved tonight, addressed from last night due to the insurrection at the Capitol and the violence we saw there, move it to tonight. So you've got agreement there. And then, of course, I think you're going to see the House and the Senate, as we talked about, Renee, with you on Monday, start start to move the budget this week and next week so that we can have conference committee going during the interim and get a budget back to the governor in February, not waiting until the end of the year like sometimes we do. So, look, we're not going to agree on everything, especially with a Republican legislature and a Democratic governor. But I feel good right now. The good news budget mostly. There's some really great priorities in there. Broadband is a big deal. Having more Michelle P. waiver slots, more social workers, more money to help small businesses and those who've been unemployed. It really does put people first. It looks to get us out of the pandemic. And I hope that once sort of the political bills that go through this first week get out of the way, that we can get forward to the really serious work, which is the budget.
He did rather curtly mention 3 areas that could be contentious, and that's sports betting, medical marijuana, and historical horse racing. And we all know how the Republicans, or at least some of the Republican leadership, feel about that based on what they shared with us on Monday night, Senator McGarvey. So those 3 things alone, do you think those are non-starters when it comes to this budget and what these Republican leadership will embrace?
I certainly hope not. And actually, this is one thing that doesn't get talked about enough. When you look at those issues, I think you see as much of an urban-rural divide as you do a Democrat-Republican divide. Medical marijuana is extremely popular around the state, saw by last year's House vote. I think you'll see a lot of Republicans who want to support things like historic horse racing.
Leader Jenkins, same question to you, as we should note that the House is the first to take up these bills. So talk to us about what you think about the conversation on these rather maybe contentious points of sports wagering and historical horse racing and medical marijuana, which we assume that the governor, or have heard the governor, has mentioned that he supports it being revenue positive. So your thoughts about that?
Well, I'll be really anxious to see how the bills are put together. My sense is that those 3 somewhat controversial issues will not be a part of the budget bill. He has said before the budget is not based on any new revenue, any tax increases, or any cuts. So I am assuming that these are going to be separate bills that he will put the weight of his office behind. In the House, we have already voted on most of these things, and I look for it to be a well received in the House.
Well, thank you, Leaders McGarvey and Jenkins. If you have a final thought, I'll give you an opportunity, and otherwise we'll let you go and get some rest because we know you have an early start in the morning.
Yeah, I would just echo Joni's comments on that last part. The Senate has been the stumbling block for those. So if people want to see medical marijuana, horse racing, those kind of things go through, then call your senators. I think it is time for us, at the very least, to have a vote on it.
All right. Thank you. Leader Jenkins, you have a final word?
Well, I would also encourage, if you like what you heard from the governor today, I think it's time to get on those phones and write those letters and tell your state reps and your state senators that you want a budget that moves Kentucky past this pandemic.
Well, thank you, Leaders Morgan McGarvey and Joni Jenkins. Appreciate your time this evening, and see you tomorrow morning. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
So I'll start with you, Amy, again. That these, and we should say, the sports betting and those other bills that we mentioned that were kind of briefly mentioned toward the end of the speech, that they would be separate measures.
Yes, absolutely.
And that he's not looking at the revenue that could be generated from those, which aren't big ticket items. Medical marijuana, we don't know how much that would generate because we haven't really talked about it in the scope of it being taxed, because we know that that's a medicine, and so how would that work and what would that require logistically? And then sports betting is expected to bring in $25 million. So we're not talking about big revenue generators here.
That's right. And I still think that there's some disagreement amongst those who are supportive of medical marijuana in the General Assembly of whether that, I think there's a strong sentiment that should not be taxed. If we're truly going to look at marijuana with medicinal value for medicinal purposes, we'll treat it like other pharmaceuticals and not tax it. So the amount of revenue that may come in from that, would be very minimal if you're looking at licensing fees, distributing fees, those type of things. And I think it's, while sports betting and other items might not generate a lot of money, I think it's important to look at where sources can come from, because I think as we emerge out of COVID, we're going to need, probably some new sources of revenue at some point in time. But I'll go back to this General Assembly is very good at budgeting on a very conservative manner. They can stretch a dollar. They have their priorities, and I think we're going to see them stick to those priorities throughout this process.
And that's very true. That's a good point, Amy, because Sherman, legislators will say, well, just because we have all the money doesn't mean we should spend all the money, right? And so if you do have better than expected revenues, doesn't mean that it all has to be taken out or going out. So I'm curious, from your perspective, what do you think are things that they can find common ground on that Amy mentioned earlier? Do you think there's some things that they could come to the meeting of the minds on between the governor and the Republican leadership?
So, yes, I do think that. But looking back, I think just even 6 months ago, we were talking about possibility of budget cuts. We were thinking at that time of when, before the numbers started coming in, it was a little different of kind of where things are. We were really looking at this budget being something a lot different than what we're seeing right now. You talked about just because you have the money, you don't have to spend the money. He's putting more money into the rainy day fund. So I think that is he is looking at that, and I think that has been addressed. To Amy's point, there's a lot in here of what we're spending and money that's going out. But again, we'll see. But it looks to be covered. It looks like he's looking at those things and looking at it from a fiscal responsibility. The thing that I think we have this week, and this week is going to be contentious, as Leader McGarvey said. There's no other way around that. I mean, that we anticipated that. We knew that was coming. Some of the bills that were pre-filed, those things are coming. So once that gets done, they're coming in on Saturday, and that hopefully those bills will be finalized and we can move on. I do think that you're going to have conversations around, he called out the 3 bills at the end there. Historic horse racing, medical marijuana, sports wagering. I think those are things that he's been looking at and having conversations with them. Where I'm going to be watching is because some of the conversations have been about the communication between the legislature and the governor. Rocky Adkins.
Right.
So Rocky was brought in. He's a senior advisor. He knows the folks. He knows Speaker Osborne. He knows President Stivers. He's got relationships there. That is somebody who is going to be, really kind of having those conversations and talking to those folks. And I think he's been having those conversations, quite honestly. They are, he's somebody that they know. They've got his cell phone number. They've been talking. He's been part of the budget negotiations for 20 years. I mean, so that is somebody who I'm kind of watching as well through this, and who I think the governor will rely on, and I think the legislature will also be relying on.
Well, and I think we also have to provide some context as well for today and the bills that have been voted off of the House and Senate floor.
Right.
Many of those bills either amended governor's powers during state of emergencies or tweaked them. They dealt
even
with
administrative regulations,
how his ability to reorganize boards or state agencies to be able to do that. So, those bills are all going to get to his desk. I would assume he's probably going to veto some of those. Right. Given the supermajorities that the House and Senate have, I would guarantee that they are going to override those vetoes. What does that do to the communication that happens between the first floor and the third floor?
And some of the Republican leadership has complained that there hasn't been much communication about those restrictions before they were enacted. And so there's already been some pretty good friction points before they even arrived to this point. I do believe that we have with us the Speaker of the House, David Osborne, and Senate President Robert Stivers. Thank you, gentlemen, for making the quick jump from the House chamber to our Capitol Annex studios. Thank you so much. I'll begin with you, Senate President Stivers, your reaction to what you heard tonight.
Well, generally budget addresses in Commonwealth, State of the Commonwealth addresses are always positive. We don't want to rain on the parade tonight, but we're waiting to see, and the process starts. We had a good discussion tomorrow. I want to say something, Sherman makes an interesting point because, we didn't think this budget was going to be a lot worse. But the reason it's not, and the reason we want to be very cautious, is that these numbers have been artificially inflated by billions and billions of borrowed money at the federal level being infused into our state economy. And that worries me. Are the numbers showing promise? Yeah, but why? And it's because of all this borrowed money and the increasing national debt that the federal government is taking on to stabilize states.
Speaker Osborne, is that a concern of yours as well, about the source of this money and it could be just contributing to the overall deficit and the one-time monies?
It is disconcerting. I think that everybody acknowledges that we're in a better spot than we thought we would be financially with the revenues that we've taken in so far. But that doesn't make me any less nervous about where we may end up. And I think that you will see us take a very, very conservative approach, and we'll still have a very lean budget going forward. I think that the use of one-time monies is very disconcerting, especially on ongoing expenses. So yeah, it does cause me some concern.
So, Mr. Speaker, did you hear anything in the governor's presentation tonight that you find some common ground with? You agree, and could be a good starting point to get the conversation going?
You know, I'm going to agree with Robert. It was an optimistic budget presentation. I think it was upbeat. I am certain that there are many areas that we will find common ground. I think that if you look at the working relationship that we've had on the budget in the past year with Rocky Atkins, with Budget Director Hicks, and other members of the administration, I am confident that we will find lots of common ground. Certainly there are going to be some differences, and we will start, we actually started working on documents this morning. The governor released that information to us so we could go ahead and get started working on it. And I'm sure that we will find some common ground, but there will certainly be some stark differences.
Can you tell us, Mr. Speaker, the process for our viewers who are curious about how things go? Many of our viewers know the process, but for those who don't, how does this go forward from this point on?
This is going to be a different process. So even those that kind of know the process, it's going to be a new process. We will actually have an Appropriations and Revenue Committee in the morning where the Budget Director will present a more detailed version of the budget to the committee. And it is our hope that we can move this budget quickly, get it into conference. And I think that something that will be unlike past years is we will generally pass out of the House our version of the budget, which puts our stamp on what our priorities are, what we want the budget to look like. Then we send it to the Senate. They will do the same thing, and then we come together in conference to try to reach compromise on that. I think that the budget that you see come out of the House, as well as the one that comes back out of the Senate, is going to be essentially a continuation budget that is not indicative of what this budget is going to look like ultimately. It is simply a matter to expedite the process, knowing that we need to get this budget into conference. So I would caution everybody to read absolutely nothing into the budget that comes out first, because it will absolutely just be a continuation budget version of the budget, and that is just an effort to expedite things so we can get to work immediately once we recess next week.
So Senator Stivers' true point, and that's kind of how things typically go, right? That the House has a version, they send it to you, you have a version, and then there is a negotiating group who comes together to reconcile those differences. So that's the same process, just a little bit different because of the environment and the fact that you're doing this in an odd year session where you only have, 25 more working days.
Right, and when you say 25 working days, you're right, Renee, on that. And you know, I think, much to the chagrin of Amy and Sherman, we found out without lobbyists in the building last year, we got a lot of work done. So we hope to expedite the process to where we can use it, as the Speaker has said, that process of our recess between our mandated reopening on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in February, that we'll have that ability and time to work through this in a collaborative nature, get more information, and get this process moving, because we are in a different situation, and it's taken a lot of discussion and thought. But what comes out of this process this next week will not be anything close to what I think the final budget will be.
And so can you give us an idea of the schedule? Will you, because you can have some liberty, I do believe, some flexibility in how you adjust the calendar. So will the lawmakers be in session next week to kind of expedite this process so that you can get to the negotiating table a little quicker as you have discussed? And perhaps maybe that's a question for the Speaker as well.
We've already signed the memorandum altering the schedule for our legislature to meet because we wanted to see how the first few days went. I signed the memo. I don't know if it got to David, but yes, we're already ready to do that.
Okay. House Speaker David Osborne, can you elaborate any?
Yes, I don't know that I can say any more, really. We did sign the memo today that extends this or adjusts the calendar, extending this first portion of the session through Wednesday.
Okay. And so do you foresee having lots of conversations? We mentioned Rocky, former state representative and majority leader, Rocky Adkins. Do you foresee having lots of conversations with them during this cycle?
I do. Rocky is a vital part of this process. We have a great working relationship with him, always have. And he will be, along with Budget Director Hicks, who is an incredibly bright mind in the budget field. I'm sure that we will be in frequent contact.
Just a couple of the provisions, and then I'll let you all go because I know it's been a long day. The educator raises, the raises for state workers, of course, fully funding the pensions, more money for the Michelle P., the community supports program. Those things seem to be that that's fertile ground to begin. Do you all agree somewhat with some of those ideas? And I'll start with you, President Stivers.
Well, again, it all depends on revenue sources, method and manner. Everything sounds good until you put it in the context of sources, one-time dollars versus recurring dollars, our debt service, our structural imbalances, our obligations, and what's being said by the respective pension systems. The governor said he was fully funding all the pension systems. We're putting close to $2.5 billion just in our pensions, if I'm not badly mistaken. So it's all in context. I can't say yes, I can't say no, but we'll start hearing about it tomorrow. And I'm going to have a little bit difference of opinion with the speaker. Yeah, Rocky's an integral part. But somewhere along the line, the governor's got to step in and have conversations. And you've heard me, you've heard the speaker, and you've heard others. The governor says he wants to work with us. Now's the time.
Speaker Osborne, I'll give you the last word, sir.
I would agree with that, with what Robert said. As far as raises go, certainly our teachers, our state employees are very deserving, but I think we also have to acknowledge that there are still tens of thousands of people that are out of work. There are tens of thousands of people waiting on the unemployment rolls for their claims to be processed. The relief fund for businesses, I'm sure that those businesses will welcome that money, but what they really want is they want their businesses back open. And I think we passed some measures today that begin that process. The people that are waiting to have their claims processed, to give them $1,000, again, I'm sure that they will be very appreciative of it. But we've spent $17 million, or the governor's office has spent $17 million with a private company trying to process these claims. Maybe we should just fix the problem and process the claims. That's what they would really like, in addition to having their jobs back. And again, I think that we've taken some steps today and this week, and we'll continue over the next few days to help rectify that.
Well, thank you, Speaker Osborne and Senate President Robert Stivers. I appreciate your time and your hard work and your commitment to the Commonwealth. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Renee.
Thank you, Renee.
So in the minute and 55 seconds we have remaining, I'm going to go to you first, Amy. The point that the Senate President made about the governor, that it's good to have Rocky, but they want to talk to the governor.
Absolutely. I mean, I think when you look at it in terms of business roles, Robert Stivers is the CEO of the Senate. David Osborne is the CEO of the House, and the governor is the CEO of Kentucky. And so I think they want that CEO interaction when they're making big decisions, especially when it comes to the state budget. And so I think we're going to see a little bit of this back and forth of maybe of who reaches out first. But I think that's going to be necessary. And I think there's a lot that staff can do. But I think at the end of the day, the governor is going to have to reach out and be part of those discussions as well. And that takes two groups to work on those conversations, but I think it's going to be necessary.
Sherman Brown, I'll give you the last word, sir.
No, I think, to Amy's point, I think they do need to talk, but I think they've been talking, and I think that's there's a question there, right? They acknowledged that they talked to him today. They acknowledged that they acknowledged it. This isn't the governor saying it. They acknowledged that they talked to him yesterday. So, they do want to talk to him more. If that's the deal, that message, I think, has been heard. But, I do think that those conversations are taking place. As far as the one-time money, obviously the federal dollars that came in, we're not going to send that money back. So that's, they have to spend it. That's what he's putting into the budget. It goes back to the question of the details. So we'll just see where that is, where that's spent, and kind of take it from there.
Yeah. Thank you, Sherman Brown, Amy Wycliffe. It's a pleasure having you here.
Thank you.
Do it again sometime.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you. And we appreciate you for tuning to KET and trusting us to bring you this coverage this evening. 8:30 tomorrow night, we'll have a wrap-up of all that's been happening this week in the legislature on Legislative Update. I'll see you tomorrow night at 8:30 following Comment on Kentucky at 8. Take really good care, and I'll see you soon.